By far the worst morning to be commuting this winter that I've experienced. So you want to be safe. You want to be careful as you get out on the roads, at least on the south side of the metro. I could not even get up a small hill in my neighborhood, by the way, with the wife's SUV. So it is dicey out there. The main roads are okay, but still, I was going 30 miles an hour down 435. There was one guy getting on the ramp to K10 out where I live who was already in a ditch at, 5 in the morning. There was a jackknife tractor trailer getting 435 to K10 westbound. So you heard Wendy mention that. You want to be careful out there this morning. It is not good. And I would take 6 inches of snow over this morning any day of the week because you get in your car and it looks fine. But once you start driving, it is not good. So we'll keep you posted on the road conditions all morning here on KCMO. In the meantime, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs, a 6th straight AFC championship game, taking down the Buffalo Bills, this time on the road. All the talk about the Chiefs. So can they win the road game? Patrick Mahomes only plays in the playoffs at home. He's never dealt with an atmosphere like Buffalo before. Well, what happened? The Chiefs end up taking care of business yesterday, 27-24. And to me, as I'm watching the game at the very end, there's 2 minutes left. The Bills have the ball. They're down 3. They look like they're in a great position to, at the very least, tie the game, if not win the game. This was shocking to me coming out of the 2-minute warning. It's 2nd and 9. They're moving the ball pretty well. They're down by 3. They're in decent field goal range. But you get another 5 to 10 yards, and, I don't want to call it a chip shot in the NFL. Nothing's a chip shot. But suddenly you're like, okay, this game's going overtime, right? Or at the very least, Patrick Mahomes is going to have the ball in a tie game with a chance to win in regulation. What does Josh Allen do? Josh Allen decides, it's 2nd and 9 from the 26-yard line. I'm going to take 2 25-yard bombs at the end zone instead of trying to get a few more yards, take the underneath route, and, by the way, burn some clock so Patrick Mahomes does not get the ball back with a minute and a half left. It didn't make any sense for the Bills to go for the end zone, and it didn't make any sense to score quickly if you're Buffalo. In a best-case scenario for Buffalo, you score with 12 seconds left in the game because we know if you leave 13 seconds on the clock for Patrick Mahomes, you got yourself some trouble. So Josh Allen reminded me of a young Brett Favre, where he's just going for gold. He's trying to get the heroic 25-yard touchdown down the middle instead of taking what was readily available in front of him, and that is 5 to 10 yards, keep the clock moving. Everyone's going to blame the Buffalo kicker. And don't get me wrong, 44 yards in the playoffs you got to hit. But as I'm looking at it, Mark Van Sickle, welcome back, by the way, my friend. You can't put that all on the kicker, can you?
No, if he makes it, I still think Butker goes down and makes a game winner. So
I agree.
That's my take on it.
I totally agree. So Buffalo, by the way, did you see the Bills fan who was crying in the stands who went viral?
Yeah, that was great. I hate to take suffering into somebody,
No, but he was really tearing up. I felt bad for Buffalo fans until I saw some of them pelting Mahomes with ice snowballs in an all-time douche move. What was that all about? Jeez. I'm looking at that and I'm saying, okay, I get it. You lost the game. I feel bad for you guys. But that one Bills fan who went viral with the crying, that dude was crying more than I'm going to cry when I have my 3rd kid here in 6 weeks. He was really just letting it rip. I was like, buddy, I know we've all been there, but whoa. He was covering his eyes and everything. It was a rough go of it. So the Chiefs going to another AFC championship. Congratulations. This time, of course, it is in Baltimore. Coming up on Sunday, that's a 2 o'clock kickoff, and we'll be talking more about this throughout the morning. What's up, John Anthony?
I think that this season should be called the You Want It, You Got It tour. Tyreek, right? Tyreek
Yes.
wanted to come to Arrowhead. The Dolphins, we're going to be, right?
Yes.
What about the Bills? Well, wait till they get to Orchard Park.
Yes.
Blah, blah. All right, brothers, you want it, you got it.
I like that. You should be a promoter or something, John. You can name all these big stars their music tours. The Don't
Right.
Look Back Now tour.
Yeah, right.
The Reunion Tour
The
7.0.
Get Off My Lawn tour.
The Get Off
right?
My Lawn tour. Oh, gosh. Well, it is a joyous morning across Kansas City. Now the countdown to Sunday at 2 o'clock on our sister partner station, KCTV5. Meantime, on the news political front, you have Ron DeSantis announcing yesterday that he is done. He is dropping out of the race for president of the United States, and he is endorsing and supporting his opponent, Donald Trump.
Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign. I'm proud to have delivered on 100% of my promises, and I will not stop now. It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance. They watch his presidency get stymied by relentless resistance, and they see Democrats using lawfare this day to attack him. Well, I've had disagreements with Donald Trump, such as on the coronavirus pandemic and his elevation of Anthony Fauci. Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge. He has my endorsement because we can't go back to the old Republican guard of yesteryear, a repackaged form of warmed-over corporatism that Nikki Haley represents.
So that was Ron DeSantis. That dropped at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday, that he was leaving the presidential race. And it makes all the sense in the world. He was going to get crushed in New Hampshire. So there was no reason for him to hang around for another few weeks just to hopefully get to South Carolina in a month. That does not make any sense. The South Carolina primaries are February 24th. New Hampshire's coming up tomorrow. It's basically a full month to South Carolina. All Ron DeSantis is going to be asked about is, why are you still in this? What's your path to victory? And the reality was, after Iowa and after New Hampshire tomorrow, there really is none. Now, maybe it's wrong, maybe it's right, but the people in Iowa spoke, even though it was a small turnout last week, with about 110,000 people. Back in 2016, 180,000 Republicans showed up for the caucuses. It was 110,000 last week. But the reality is, Ron DeSantis continued to go down in the polls the last few months. How much is his fault? How much is his campaign's fault? We'll let historians worry about that. But the path was not there. The money dried up. Trump is going to be the guy. Nikki Haley might have a decent showing tomorrow, but now that DeSantis has thrown his support behind Donald Trump, I don't see the path for her either. So the field has cleared very quickly. And Ron DeSantis, a guy who had a tremendous amount of hope in 2022 after that massive reelection victory in Florida, frankly fell flat on his face the last few months. Some under his control, a lot not under his control. Once the indictment started rolling in for Trump, it felt like it was very much game, set, match. Coming up on KCMO, I do want to expand on this, though, and touch on maybe the mistakes that media made throughout all this the last several months. We'll dive into that here on 95.7 FM, KCMO. Good morning. It's great to be here. And also, how about the old guy knocking the old guy? I mean, we got a boxing match going on at the nursing home. That's what this might be looking like in 2024. I'll explain that on 95.7 FM. You've got Wendy keeping you up to date all morning long on the accidents around the metro. You want to take your time. The interstates are, depending on where you're at, okay to not good. But please do take time this morning. Use caution. Do not get on the roads if you don't have to. The side streets in particular are a mess. So just know I would take a few inches of snow over what we've got this morning on the roads. Be careful out there and use your best judgment, John Anthony.
My car was in the driveway, so you don't want to just step out even onto a wooden porch right now because you will go elbow over appetite.
Yeah.
There's another phrase, too. But
I was wondering how you were going to spin out of that. No, that was good.
Yeah.
You're right about that.
No, I was doing the dainty thing. I'm looking like a figure skater. Brian Boitano going to my car out there.
And I think Mark was doing that, too. Welcome back, Mark.
Yeah, I have a slant on my driveway, so trying to scrape the car.
Oh,
That's It's like I'm on skates out there.
I couldn't get any leverage either. I was sliding away from the car. Skipper!
It is not good. And I've got a little sloped uphill on my main road to get out of the neighborhood, and I literally could not get up the hill with my wife's SUV. I'm like hitting the gas, and it wasn't going anywhere on the ice.
I hit this quick trip at Rowan, so I'm hitting the south exit, and it's just up this hill. And, of course, a guy gets the light, and he's coming around. He's turned left down at the bottom of the hill and coming up, and I've got to stop on this incline. I slid back down at the quick trip.
Did you
I had to
really?
get a run at it to get back up to get on 435 again.
Oh, man.
As soon as I rounded the corner, there was a guy in the ditch.
That's the kind of morning it is out there. So please, if you can work from home, work from home. And I know we've been very critical of the schools for all their cancelings over the last couple of weeks. This one is completely legitimate. We don't want our kids out in the ice. We don't want the school buses out on these roads, on the side streets in the neighborhoods. It's a mess. So just embrace it. Throw on a movie this morning, a little Disney movie, or even better, throw us on the Alexa or the Google Home, and your kids will learn something. There you go. They don't need school. They can learn, School of Hard Knocks right here on KCMO.
We got current events covered.
We do. Now, Ron DeSantis drops out yesterday from the presidential race. And this is a guy who, coming into the year, was neck and neck with Donald Trump in all the polling. He had just won Florida by 20 points. He was coming in hot, and this was also a 2022 where Donald Trump had a bad midterm. A lot of the top names that he endorsed ended up losing. You had, of course, Kerry Lake in Arizona, Herschel Walker in Georgia. You had Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania. So 2022 happens, and DeSantis blows it out of the water, and Trump's people end up limping across the finish line and losing. And what's the narrative? Ron DeSantis, he's the guy, he's the future, he's the next wave. Trump is old news. But Trump is the comeback kid. He was in business in New York City. He was as a media mogul, and now he appears to be as a politician. He's at least gotten this far. Donald Trump ends up getting indicted for the first time in March. The indictments, of course, keep coming down in the months that follow, and his polling keeps going up. So two things happened over the last year that hurt Ron DeSantis. One, the Trump indictments, and I'm not sure he could have done anything to overcome those. But the next one is the fact that he sat on his hands for 6 months before he announced. 6 months before he decided, I'm going to actually get into the race. And everyone knew he was going to announce. Now, I admire it on one hand because he wanted to serve the Florida legislature and give them one full term. Kind of like here in Kansas and Missouri, where they have their legislative term from January to May-ish. He wanted to be fully focused on getting things done for the people of Florida who just reelected him by 20 points. And I admire that. A lot of politicians wouldn't really care and would say, screw it. I'm going to just go ahead and run for president. And you guys can send me some bills and I'll do what I can. But he said, no, I'm going to serve the people of Florida and give them this full term and then announce a presidential run. But in the meantime, Trump was getting indicted, and Trump was able to successfully put Ron DeSantis into a hole. And by that, I mean he was able to brand DeSantis as he saw fit. And once Trump brands you effectively, it's basically game, set, match. So DeSantis wouldn't take any shots at Trump. One, because he wasn't technically running for president. And number two, he was hoping he would get a lot of MAGA voters. So in the meantime, he's on the sidelines. Trump's blasting him. Trump's getting indicted. And Ron's like, nothing to see here. And in hindsight, it was a colossal mistake. Once again, I'm not sure it would have made a difference anyway, but it was a colossal mistake. And then I will blame us in the media for a couple of things as well. And I'll include myself in this to some degree. I mean, I didn't, of course, write the national narrative from here on KCMO in Kansas City, but I will note one thing the media made a mistake on, and I really mean conservative-leaning media, Fox News, other cable outlets, talk radio, social media, is we focus so much on the polling versus the differences between the candidates, notably Trump and DeSantis. Because there are differences. And you heard DeSantis note some of that in his, I don't want to call it a resignation, but in his announcement yesterday that he was dropping out and suspending his presidential campaign. He noted some of the differences between himself and Trump on COVID. Now, one of the smart moves by Trump is Trump never debated. So you couldn't really talk about, hey, spending cuts, the national debt, how we fix it, what's your record on it, Donnie, what would we do differently? Trump never subjected himself to any of that. And by the way, that was a smart political move. As I said, I don't like the idea that we aren't encouraging debates. I wish Trump would have debated. I hope that him and Biden debate, but I don't think they will. I think it's good for the American people to see people debate. But I don't blame him for not doing it. I would not have done it either. But as a media, what was the focus so much on? On the polling. And here goes Trump up in the polls. And here goes DeSantis down in the polls. Instead of simply saying, or at least looking at it through the prism of, okay, the polling is what it is, but who are these guys? How are they different? They had a lot of similarities, don't get me wrong. It's probably 80-20 similarities to differences. But what are the differences? We didn't really spend any time on that because it was too much about what are the polls showing. And polls are great, but if there's one thing we've learned the last couple of cycles, take the polling with a grain of salt. Don't treat it as, the be-all, end-all of anything in politics, because until anyone's casted a ballot, it's just a guessing game. And we spent a lot of time doing that, and I just wonder how things might have been different if there was more focus on what actually is happening and the differences between the candidates versus what some poll is showing 8 months out from an election. Next on KCMO, all right, we got the old guy knocking the old guy on age. Is that really going to work out? Plus, the Royals make a move begging for your vote. It's all in the next 30 minutes on KCMO. Monday morning, a Chiefs victory. Monday across Kansas City. Hope your morning's off to a great start. Welcome in. It is so good to be here with you. Of course, the roads are dicey this morning at best, so you want to be careful. We'll keep pumping up that PSA all morning long because it looks okay. You're probably upset. A lot of the kids are, going to be home again today, but it is well worth it. The roads are treacherous, especially on the south side of the Kansas City Metro, John.
Your porch and driveway
are
treacherous, right?
Yes.
Be careful just walking out.
Yeah, John and Mark are, nearly broke their hips getting out to the car this morning. Luckily, mine was in the garage, so I was okay. But
I was doing Bambi on ice. I'm
like, oh, man. That's why, I always say we got a ton of crap in the garage because, we got two little kids. But I will never allow there to be enough crap in the garage to not fit both cars in. It gets tight. I'm not going to lie, it gets tight. But days like today, I don't regret it one bit.
You're a wise man.
Yeah.
I cleared my garage out so I could park in the garage, and then I just didn't see this storm coming, I guess. So,
well,
my bad.
Mark, you're still getting back in the groove, by the way. Mark's, he's been on parental leave, so he kind of forgot about the news and the weather and all that kind of stuff. But, Mark, they've been talking about this for the last couple of days. Sunday night into Monday, keep an eye on the weather.
I know. I just missed this one. I don't know what happened.
Well, we'll allow it. You got a 7-week-old at home. How's the baby, by the way? Everything good?
Yeah, she's doing good. She's starting to sleep a little bit more at night, which is good, going about a 3 to 4 hour stretch.
Ooh.
So I'm liking that.
That's a good, all right, it's 3 to 4 hour stretch at this point. That's pretty good. You take that every time. How's mom doing? Mom good?
She's doing good. She's a little sad that I'm back at work today because, she's got most of the night duty now. So.
Well, you'll be back on the weekends.
Yeah.
It'll be Friday night before she knows it. Just keep telling her that. And, hey, listen, the good thing about guys like us and what we do, you'll be home for a late lunch if you want. You'll be taking over.
Yeah, she can take a nap later.
Yes.
It'll be good.
Listen, I don't envy necessarily our wake-up times, but the positive is that you can be home for a little afternoon nap for Mom. So make sure you take care of Mom on behalf of all of us at KCMO.
Will do.
All right, there you go. It's good to have him back in the saddle. The band's back together, as they say. Meantime, on the national political level, the band is somewhat back together. Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis are, I don't want to say they're going to be going out for, golf and lunch anytime soon, but they're at least not fighting anymore. Did you see what Trump said yesterday? By the way, this was pretty funny. It was actually classic Trump in New Hampshire, right after he found out that Ron DeSantis had dropped out of the race. Take a listen to what he said.
Okay. He just said, will I be using the name Ron DeSanctimonious? I said, that name is officially retired.
You got to see him, too. That name is now officially retired. And then you hear the guy, go Trump, in the background. I mean, we will never see anything like this in our lifetime. It is unbelievable. And that's the other issue that DeSantis had. I mean, Ron's stiff. He's got to loosen up. He never really did loosen up over the last year. But he looked extra stiff compared to Trump, who's, he's part stand-up comedian. He's part business mogul. He's part TV host. He's part late-night entertainer. I mean, he's all of that wrapped into one. Ron DeSanctimonious' nickname is now officially retired.
Okay. He just said, will I be using the name Ron DeSanctimonious? I said, that name is officially retired.
Jonathan's in Kansas City on a Monday. What's up, Jonathan? Good morning.
How you doing, Pete?
Doing well, man. What's happening?
I know that a lot of Trumpers were very quick to criticize DeSantis, which I thought a lot of those attacks were unfair. And, I thought a lot of them you could apply to Trump. And, I think a lot of the attacks were not principle-based. And I think we've lost too many principles in politics, which is one of the reasons I liked Ron DeSantis, because he was more conservative than Trump, and he had principles behind his reasons. He didn't just go every which way the wind blows, kind of like Trump tends to do sometimes. And so, I think he would be a great option for 2028. I noticed online, as soon as he dropped out, most of the chatter online was on the side of him doing it in 2028, but I'm sure we'll have that debate over the next 4 years. I just hope, he did well in Florida. He did turn it from a purple state into a red state. And, blue counties like Miami-Dade County swung for him. And I think for Republicans to just ignore that and say, let's look for a next new shiny thing. I mean, how many elections have we lost in a row where, like, oh, you know what, Herschel Walker, he's the candidate. Carrie Lake, she's the candidate. It's going to happen. And how many times have we been let down? Like, we cannot afford to lose elections hand over fist with the way this country is going. So I think he should be seriously considered for 2028.
I agree.
I don't know your thoughts on it.
Jonathan, I think it's a great point and an outstanding call. Thanks for making it. I agree. I think he's formidable in 28. I think he's worthy of a serious look in 28. I do think the pettiness between Trump and DeSantis people got out of hand the last couple of months. It was mostly an online phenomenon, but it was nasty at times. I do think Ron DeSantis is a principled guy. You can't discount his incredible record in Florida and what he did, taking that from a coin flip state to a solidly red state. And with Trump, listen, when it comes to Trump in politics, there's Donald Trump running as Donald Trump, and then there's Donald Trump trying to help other people. Donald Trump is not good as a surrogate because he picks people that are either his friends, that are famous, or that kiss his butt too much. And here's the problem. The Trump voter shows up for Trump. The Trump voter doesn't necessarily show up for who Trump picks. And we saw that in 2022. So, that conversation is going to be down the road, but it's going to come fast. There's two ways Ron DeSantis can go. He can be viable for 28, or he can go the way of Scott Walker, former governor of Wisconsin, who was this, red governor, bluish, toss-up state, who flamed out in 2012, and no one's really ever heard from the guy since. I don't think that's going to be DeSantis, but, even if Trump gets in there, he's a lame duck on day one. So the talk about who takes over in 28 will probably start to pick up rapidly approaching the 2026 midterms. But remember, whoever he picks as his VP is theoretically going to be the front runner to replace him. And that's what makes this a very unique vice presidential choice for Donald Trump. Because in theory, whoever is his VP pick would be the person that he would probably, maybe, give his blessing to take over in 28. But maybe not. With Trump, you can't really pigeonhole him. That's for darn sure.
Hashtag Mike Pence.
Yeah, exactly. it typically, at least history would show it doesn't always end well. Hashtag Mike Pence. So speaking of Trump now, Joe Biden put out this video taking a shot at him. If you haven't seen this, it is, here's the problem. And as much as Trump did a very good job for 4 years as president, one of the big problems with him being the nominee, and listen, I think he can win, there's no doubt about it, but it does take away some of the age criticism against Joe Biden. Some. And Joe Biden is playing that up, by the way. Joe Biden, and this is comical because no one knows where they are less in American politics than Joe Biden. However, Joe Biden put out a video over the weekend basically trying to call Trump senile, which is hysterical, knowing that Joe does not have it all going up there right now. But this is now where this is going to go over the next 7, 8, 9 months. You now have Joe Biden, who is as out of touch as any president has been in the White House, ripping Trump for what he claims is, mental shortcomings, for lack of a better phrase, not having it all up there. He is going after Trump for that, which is laughable. But this is what happens when you have two guys, a combined 160 years old, now looking like the two guys who are going to be running to get into the White House. So I'll play that audio clip for you, and also great Babylon Bee headline here before we hit the break. DeSantis says he'll try running again when he's a senile 75-year-old. Welcome to American politics, baby. We'll play that clip for you coming up. Kendall Gammon will be here just after 7 as the Chiefs are going to another AFC Championship game, 6th straight. Good morning. Happy Monday. Stay safe on the roads. So here's the ad. Happy Monday, by the way. Welcome in. Chiefs are going to another AFC Championship game, 6 in a row. Kendall Gammon at 7:05 to talk about that. Here's the ad that Joe Biden put out yesterday on Donald Trump. And this ad is basically Biden using the words of Trump, who did a rally over the weekend in New Hampshire where he was talking about January 6th and talking about how he requested security on January 6th. And he had requested security of Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House. But he kept calling Nancy Pelosi Nikki Haley. So he keeps talking about Nikki Haley, January 6th, January 6th, January 6th. But of course, he meant to say Nancy Pelosi. So this became part of an ad that Joe Biden put out yesterday.
Last night, Trump is at a rally.
Nikki Haley.
And he's going on and on mentioning me multiple times as to why I didn't handle January 6th better.
Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people. They don't want to talk about that.
I wasn't in office then. They're saying he got confused.
You have voter ID to buy a loaf of bread. You have ID to buy a loaf of bread. What? I'm driving over a road where it's almost all paper. And you can see paper. I know paper. I know cans. But all the time now we see whales washing up on shore because of the wind. Our veterans don't have cell phones, do they?
He got confused. He got confused and said he was running against Obama. He never ran against Obama.
And we did with Obama. We won an election that everyone said couldn't be won.
Obama he doesn't want to talk about it.
Well, you mean President Biden. So,
Don't put our country at risk like this.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Joe put that out about lunchtime yesterday with the caption on X, I don't agree with Nikki Haley on everything, but we agree on this much. She is not Nancy Pelosi. So Joe Biden's really going there, huh? I mean, the guy who literally doesn't seem to know where he is half the time is really going there in questioning Trump's mental faculties. That's what he is doing. And he's decided to go down that road because, well, both guys are obviously 80 years old, give or take. So he thinks he can. And as a result, now, listen, no one's going to look at Trump speak and look at Biden speak and think that these guys are one and the same. They're simply not. I mean, you watch Joe, and we've seen it firsthand over the last couple of years, continue a decline. And while Trump, listen, it's not 2016 Trump. It's not. I mean, I think 70's the new 60 and 80's the new 70. And as you approach 80, I just think it's impossible to not have some diminishing skill sets. And you do see some of that with Trump. It's not vintage 2016 Trump, but it certainly is light years ahead of where Grandpa is.
Come on, man.
It's not even debatable. But the fact that Biden even thinks he can get away with this, the fact that he believes in his heart of hearts that he can actually knock Trump for his age is awfully telling. And it suggests to me that nothing's going to be off limits. If the guy in the White House right now, who we've seen diminish in front of our own two eyes every single day since he stepped into office almost 3 years ago, if he's willing to go after Trump for his, verbal mess-ups and mistakes and insinuate that Trump is a senile old man, then he will go anywhere it takes. And by the way, we all know he will have a very willing and lapdog media who will go along with it. And that's what we're going to be seeing here in the weeks and months ahead. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on a Monday morning on KCMO. Welcome in. So let me just share with you a couple of paragraphs from this Babylon Bee story, which is satire, of course, with Ron DeSantis dropping out yesterday. DeSantis says he will try running again when he's a senile 75-year-old. Governor Ron DeSantis has officially suspended his presidential campaign, deciding to wait until he's 75 and senile before attempting to become leader of the free world. Quote, "My time has not yet come," said DeSantis as he ably walked up a flight of stairs carrying a dozen pizzas. "I still have complete control of my mental and physical faculties." DeSantis launched his campaign with high hopes, only to see his poll numbers slide as voters began to realize he was not old and decrepit. Quote, "Everything he says makes sense, and I don't like it," said local man Gene Cummings. "I haven't heard him confuse his mom and his wife a single time. And he can walk on flat surfaces effortlessly. He's just not presidential material." I mean, if I don't laugh at stuff like this, I'm going to start shedding a tear, because it does certainly feel like we are living in this world where if you are not old and senile, you are not taken seriously. As we approach the top of the hour, I won't talk to Kendall Gammon about this, but over the weekend, you may have seen this ad that the Royals threw up on social media. And did this air during the Chiefs game yesterday? This go vote in Jackson County thing? Did either of you? I didn't see it.
I didn't recall seeing it. No.
Okay.
I didn't see it.
All right. So maybe it didn't air. The rumblings were that this ad was going to air during the Chiefs game yesterday. I was watching it with a couple of folks and families in the neighborhood. So I'm just wondering if I missed it. But you're saying you didn't see it either. So anyway, it played on social media. It's on my Twitter page at Pete Mundo. And it's basically an ad from the Royals and the Chiefs saying, "Jackson County, call your legislators and tell them to let you vote on extending the 3/8 cent sales tax in Jackson County this April."
Gordon in the air to center. is pulsating at the moment.
So what they're doing during that ad, they're showing Chiefs highlights, Royals highlights, going back, George Brett, everything else. And on the screen it says, Jackson County deserves to be heard. Jackson County deserves a voice. Jackson County deserves to vote. And then it says, let's keep the momentum going. And it asks you to call your Jackson County legislator today and ask for a public vote. And to that, I would say, I'm happy to encourage Jackson County residents to call their legislator and ask for a vote. As soon as the Royals tell Kansas City and Jackson County where the heck they want to be, this is not difficult. Tell people where you want to be, and then we can talk about a vote. Right after the game ends last night, you start scrolling through social media, and it's just all this stuff, and I don't understand it. I genuinely don't. But all this stuff on social media, like this from Clay Travis, and I really like Clay Travis. I'm a huge fan of Clay Travis. I have followed him since he was just an SEC football blogger. And he wrote his first book about going to not every SEC football stadium, but he took a fall out and he went to a bunch of different SEC football stadiums on Saturdays. And it's a great, fun read if you're a college football fan. I really do respect Clay Travis, what he built with Outkick. Now, of course, he's doing a radio show and he's on Fox News and everything else. But he put up on Twitter last night after the game, Baltimore has to beat the Chiefs. I can't handle Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce coverage for 2 weeks at the Super Bowl. Now, listen, here's the reality about the 2 weeks between the Super Bowl. We're all sick of the storylines by the time we actually get to the game. Remember last year? Andy Reid taking on his former team. Travis and Jason going up against each other as Kelce brothers. Every single manufactured storyline is worn out because you've got 2 weeks and the media's got to start making up stories or just beating a dead horse with stories.
You'd think it was the Olympics or something.
Yeah. So we're sick of whatever the media coverage is. So Clay Travis puts that up last night, and then here was the top response on his X page to that tweet, or whatever we're calling it now, the X. Some guy writes, "This has been in the script for months. They're going to push KC Swifters to win the Super Bowl. And then Swift and Kelce are going to go on a Vote Biden America tour." Oh, my goodness. I mean, that's
deep.
That is deep and quite possibly the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Deep doo-doo.
Because I'm telling you right now, if, first off, that was any part of some deep conspiracy theory with the NFL, do you think they would have called Kadarius Toney off sides against the Bills in early December? You think that would have happened? If there was a conspiracy to make sure Kelce wins a Super Bowl and Taylor Swift's all over our TVs, and then they go on the Vote Joe Biden America tour. Please.
They're throwing you off the scent so the Chiefs couldn't have home field advantage.
Yeah, exactly. 4D chess. So here's I'm watching the game yesterday with a bunch of, we probably had 4 families there, all Republican voters and our kids. Between these 4 families, we've got 11 girls combined under the age of 10. And, every time they show Taylor Swift, no one's upset about Taylor Swift. No one's saying, oh, Taylor, oh, boy, we're going to lose this election because she's going to be side by side with Joe. And, oh, my goodness, what are we going to do? No one's talking about that. No one's having that conversation. No one even, as far as I can tell, thinks about it. The people that think like this are a small percentage of boomer, micro-peen men who have not... How far do I want to take this? Come on, Mark. I know you're chuckling in there. How far do I crack that mic? How far do I want to go with this? I don't want you to hit the dump button on day one.
Did you say animal loving?
Let's fit that in. They are a joke. They are making up these weird fantasies and fetishes of their own doing in their mind that have no common sense to any regular thinking person. But they get, millions of impressions between all of them on social media, and they're living in this fantasy land, John.
I don't know why you would characterize that as boomer.
Well,
boomers are still on MySpace. We're not spreading any conspiracies.
Well,
I think this is it's a psychographic. It's more of a way of thinking than it is an age thing.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
All right.
But my point is, it's not people
it's
who have
like to yell at the cloud.
It's not people who actually have young girls who are thinking like this, who are actually listening to Taylor Swift and influenced theoretically by Taylor Swift to some degree. So yes, I use that as more of a mindset. But there are definitely people who do not have young children who actually listen to Taylor Swift who think like this.
There would be a lot of things they don't have, including that, right?
Yeah, bingo,
okay.
Including that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of things missing from their lives, shall we say, that need to be in their lives to bring some normalcy to their lives. But it's just infuriating to see this stuff because then it's like all these people who I typically would agree with when it comes to public policy and things of that nature are losing their minds over Taylor. And it's like, guys, yes, she happens to be the most famous pop star on the planet. Okay. And she happens to be dating a guy who plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's great. And they show her on TV once in a while. There's no grand conspiracy here. Roger Goodell is not secretly working with the Democratic Party to make sure Taylor gets 6 cameos a game and make sure the Chiefs get to the Super Bowl and then make sure that she is, holding Grandpa's hand as he, trips his way potentially into another 4 years in the White House. That's not what this is about. Just find something else to be upset about, make some memes, and call it a day. Because normal people watching the game who actually have young girls who listen and know and care about Taylor Swift don't think like this. It's often single guys who have nothing better to do with their time. That's what it appears to be. 913-408-7957. That's our studio line and our text line on KCMO Talk Radio. This is from Kathy on the text line. Pete, not a Swiftie, but I loved Travis blowing kisses and doing the heart sign to Taylor. Have a great day. I was on the fence about the heart sign. I was kind of like, come on, Travis, you're not 22. You're a grown man. You're 34. I didn't know how I felt about the heart sign, but then I came around on it. Then I'm like, you know what? Whatever. She gave him a shout out in a song that, that viral clip when he was down there in Brazil for one of her concerts, and she threw him a bone. So he scores a touchdown on the playoff game, and he throws her a little heart, whatever. And if it makes Kathy happy, then you know what? It makes me happy. And that's all. I'm not going to get worked up about that either because that's a huge waste of my time.
And the Swifties all thought the heart was for them, not just for Taylor, but for the entire Swiftie Nation.
That's Swiftie Nation getting a little big-headed.
Yeah.
Come on. That was him to his girlfriend. That's what that was. Maybe future fiance, according to the New York Post and some other outlets. But Swiftie Nation has to get over itself a little bit here. I mean, they're just great. They're fans, but there's nothing more than that. That's a mano thing. And how about Jason Kelce stealing the show last night? Shirtless in the box. And he was fully manscaped. He was all prepared to rip that shirt off, John.
I think they had the whole family up there because I think I saw Dad.
I saw Dad.
Dad was there, right?
I saw Jason's wife.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Jason's wife was there. I was
Kaylee?
like,
Kelsey?
Kaylee?
Kelsey?
No. What's her name? Kaylee,
isn't it?
Yeah. So she was there. I was worried. I'm like, gosh, Jason. Kylie.
Thank you.
That's why you're back here, Mark. Welcome back. He's sharp as a tack. But I'm thinking to myself, gosh, did Jason leave his wife home with the kids while he's, ripping his shirt off at the game, getting hammered? But I did see her in the back of the box. So good for him. Hey, he's retired. Can you think of a better way to kick off retirement than that right there?
My conspiracy theory is he's coming to the Chiefs next year. He's coming out of retirement to play for the Chiefs.
But they got a great center in Creed Humphrey.
That's true. He can move the left guard or something. Like that. You never know.
That's deep, Mark. That's deep. Last night, Mark, Ray, and I were texting about this, and Ray Stevens, who hosts 10 the Noon here on KCMO, writes to us, Jason's going to have a hangover tomorrow. And I just wrote back, if I retired after making tens of millions of dollars by the age of 36, I'd be doing the same damn thing right now.
Hadn't officially retired, right?
Well, true.
He denied that on the Heights after Adam Schefter reported it.
True. That's a
matter
good point.
of time. I think it's a formality.
Yes.
It's like, are you running or not running?
Yeah. Kind of like Ron DeSantis for 5 months.
There you go.
Are you running or are you not? Oh, I'm worried about Florida. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll get to that from the weekend coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. And stream us if you're working from home on a icy Monday morning across Kansas City on KCMO. Take your time this morning on the roads. I was struggling to get out of my neighborhood this morning. It was just a sheet of ice. And then I got an uphill, and then I got a little downhill to get out to the main road, and it is touch and go. So definitely take your time if you have to go outside. A lot of the schools are closed this morning, and frankly, I know we've complained about how often the schools have been closed, but this morning it is well-deserved. I mean, this is way worse than a couple inches of snow or cold weather. So definitely take your time. If you have to go out, if you can, don't. Just skip it and listen to us on the Alexa, the Google Home, or the iHeart app as well. So Ron DeSantis dropped out yesterday, suspending his campaign and endorsing Donald Trump. Best for him, best for his political future, and best for the party today.
Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign. I'm proud to have delivered on 100% of my promises, and I will not stop now. It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance. They watch his presidency get stymied by relentless resistance, and they see Democrats using lawfare this day to attack him. Well, I've had disagreements with Donald Trump, such as on the coronavirus pandemic and his elevation of Anthony Fauci. Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge. He has my endorsement because we can't go back to the old Republican guard of yesteryear, a repackaged form of warmed-over corporatism that Nikki Haley represents.
That was Ron DeSantis. And clearly he's saying Nikki's not the way forward, and Trump, at least for the next 4 years, is. A lot of people are saying, oh, Ron shouldn't have done that. Why not? He's a man of his word. He stood by it, and he said, hey, I will, as I signed a pledge to, endorse the eventual nominee. And he took not a shot at Trump, but he highlighted in that clip some of his differences from Donald Trump. And you know what? That's fine. He should. But he ultimately came around. And I always thought that Ron DeSantis was and remains a pretty principled guy. Yes, he's got some issues down in Florida that's got to be taken care of. As some of you on the text line know, Pete, DeSantis can now go back to Florida and do what he does best, ignore the home insurance crisis. Okay. All right, fine, whatever. But yeah, he's got things like that he has to take care of. Every governor has issues. I mean, I'll tell you right now, who's got bigger issues, Ron DeSantis or, J.B. Pritzker in Illinois or Kathy Hochul in New York or Newsom in California? I don't think it's all that close. But for Ron DeSantis, kind of putting together his political future, this makes sense. He's bowed out. He has, and this is all going to be forgotten, by the way, from the standpoint of the animosity. And it wasn't a lot, but there was some animosity, of course, between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. There was more animosity, actually, between Donald Trump's supporters and Ron DeSantis supporters than there was animosity between the two guys themselves. The supporters on social media were at each other's throats. Whereas the two guys, I mean, yeah, they were taking shots at each other. But even yesterday, Trump basically said, it's old news. Let's bury the hatchet and let's move on. Here he was yesterday when he was asked in New Hampshire about DeSantis dropping out of the race.
Okay.
He just said, will I be using the name Ron DeSanctimonious? I said, that name is officially retired.
Go Trump! Some random guy there at the end of New Hampshire. That name is officially retired. And listen, I don't know how DeSantis would have topped Trump and Trump's personality. Yeah, DeSantis has an incredible resume. He did a great job in Florida and is doing a great job in Florida for the most part. But in the end, I don't know how he was ever going to top somebody who was just in the White House, who people have fond memories of on the policy side being in the White House. I mean, ask anybody, even those who don't like him. You're going to take the economy of 2017 until the start of COVID over this, the last 2-3 years? If not, you're insane. Or your name is Hunter Biden, one or the other.
Come on, man.
There's just no way. So people have fond memories of that time, and then the personality's night and day. I remember watching Ron here in Olathe. Remember, he came out to the event in September of 22. He did an event in Olathe for Derek Schmidt. Packed house at that Olathe Conference Center there on the corner of Ridgeview and K10. And it was impressive. But my critique the next Monday was it went on too long. He was trying to be too much like Trump. Trump can speak for an hour, but even I've seen Trump speak for an hour in person in Topeka. And after about, I'd say 20 to 30 minutes, it's like, all right, let's wrap it up here. But Trump goes on for an hour. That's just who he is. He's an entertainer. And it's still pretty funny and pretty good stuff. But after, for the most part, 20, 30 minutes, that's good. DeSantis went on for an hour as if he was Trump, and he's just not that compelling of a guy. It's very hard to captivate an audience for that long, especially in a world where people's attention spans are becoming that of ants. I mean, we have attention spans of literally seconds in this culture today. And I watched Ron in Olathe, and I'm like, dude, you're not Trump. Don't try to be him. Just do what you do well. Give a solid 20, 25-minute speech and move on. Call it a day. Don't force yourself to go on for 45, 50, 60 minutes. And that's what he did. And that lack of personality, that lack of oomph when you talk about being able to deliver and be that energetic person going up against a guy as cumbersome as Trump, it was never there. And I'm not sure it was ever going to be there. But he's still got a political future if he wants one. So will he be the comeback kid or will he be the next Scott Walker? That remains to be seen. Good point on the text line. Pete, you just talked to Jackson County legislator Manny Abarca. It's funny how he wants to say the people should be able to vote for the sales tax, but last year he wanted to remove the Andrew Jackson statue even if the taxpayers had already voted on it and voted to keep it. What a hypocrite. I hadn't thought about that, but listen, I always appreciate Manny coming on the show. We see a lot of things differently, but we always have a good conversation. And that is a good point on the text line at 913-408-7957. So this story is so much more about backroom politics than it is sports, that being the Royals and the Chiefs. And I've said that for a long time because inevitably every single time this comes up, you get the texter, and there's a few of them, more than I'd like to, admit. This is a sports story. Stay in your lane. No, it's not. It is a political story masked in sports, in football and baseball. This is politics, John. It is local politics at its very core.
Well, those texts come from the sports show because we cover it better.
yeah. Well, that's
depth. See, that's where that's coming from.
I think you're right. I think it's the sports show guys upset we're talking about this because we do it better than them because we know the players involved better than they do.
I don't know what 3/8 cent sales tax is. How do you do that?
What is that, 3 pennies?
Yeah.
No, that's not how it works. So,
no, it is because, again, if the Royals would have announced way back when, we probably wouldn't even be talking about this now, right?
Yeah.
Back at was it into September when they
Yes.
Right. So had they done that, this probably would have been all taken care of before the Thanksgiving break.
They screwed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been sympathetic to them as a team because I understand the business and the economics of baseball. No salary cap. You got to make money however you can. If you build this entertainment district, you make money off beer and food, and you hopefully can put it back into the team and compete. I get it. I don't think the K needs to be replaced, but I get it. But with each passing day, I lose sympathy because now they put out this commercial over the weekend that is up on the social media pages if you want to see it, where basically they're saying, call your Jackson County legislator, allow people to vote. I would play it for you, but it's just like music. There's no voice to it, so there's no point in playing it on the radio. But they basically were like, call your county legislator, demand a vote in April. It's like, I demand you guys tell the taxpayer where the hell you want to be. That's what I demand if I was a Jackson County taxpayer. And then at the very least, okay, fine, we can decide on extending a sales tax. It's not a new tax, extending a sales tax. But it's arrogant to ask the taxpayer, and by the way, the Jackson County taxpayer, who has just gotten absolutely steamrolled by this county over the last 6 to 12 months on these property tax issues and everything else. I mean, it has just been brutal. And at the very least, if you want to talk about being a good steward and being a good partner, can you tell the people where you want to be? And they can't do it. So what do I see then? I see this on social media. I see some of the sports goobers in this town. Oh, we're going to lose the teams, guys. You better call up your county legislator and you demand a vote. If not, these teams they're running for the hills. Take a deep breath, relax, don't have an inferiority complex about it. It's going to be okay. And the people that I've talked to who will not come on this show because they are working very hard behind the scenes to try to make sure all this gets done and everyone is doing their job and everything is going smoothly, they're like, Pete, listen, if this thing doesn't get done now, there's next April. They have until 2031. They're not going to pick up their bags and go to Nashville next week. That's not going to happen to the Royals. Now, if things really go sideways, there's always a possibility that something goes wrong. But do not have an inferiority complex about Kansas City in thinking that if we don't do this right, if we don't give them $2 billion right now, they're picking up their bags and they're going. No, they're not. So stop with that small mindset that a lot of the sports nerds seem to have in this town.
Well, we're running out of places for teams to run to, number one. And number two, the grass ain't any greener anywhere else.
That's the thing.
Right? Well, they'll go to Portland.
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
Have fun with that.
Portland, right?
Yeah, a lot of Antifa members at the game.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
I get Nashville chic. Everybody likes to push
I know.
that for baseball.
I know. It's Austin. Everyone's going to Austin, Texas. Mm-hmm. Really? You're concerned about the cost of infrastructure and the inflation costs in Kansas City. Try going to Austin, Texas right now. Try going to Nashville, Tennessee right now. See how your costs are down there. There's more leverage than I believe the run-of-the-mill sports fan is giving this town credit for. Think about how difficult it is. Just pick up your bags and move a franchise anyway. Plus, do you want to be the most hated man in Kansas City? Like, some of the most famous departures in recent memory are the Oklahoma City Thunder, formerly the Seattle Supersonics. Here's the difference. They were sold to a group from Oklahoma. There was always that concern. This group of oil guys from Oklahoma were going to bring this team to Oklahoma City. That's what happened. John Sherman's a Kansas City guy. He cares about this community. He wants this team to be here. It's one of the reasons that he was allowed to buy the team. I know some of his friends pretty well, and they insist he wants to keep him here. And I believe that. But I'm not going to lie, some of the guys who he's put in charge of this process have done an awful job on his behalf. I mean, frankly, if I was him, I would have turned over some of the people he put in charge of this process because they are not helping his cause.
And it's an ownership group, right? He's kind of the main guy, yes. So a lot of it gets directed at him personally, but he's representing.
I guess we'll call him a majority owner, as they do.
Sure.
But yes, you're right. He's got other people ringing his phone saying, hey, how about this? How about that? You know, and he's getting crap from people as well. So I don't I'm somewhat sympathetic to what he's dealing with. But, yeah, he's got Kansas City guys that are even the smaller owners as well who want to keep it here. So don't feel like the team's got all the power in this deal. They do have, yes, power, but they don't hold all the cards. In fact, you, the taxpayer, hold more of the cards than you realize. And once again, that's me saying this as someone who understands why they've wanted to do what they wanted to do, but also thinks that for a team that's preached transparency, they sure have lacked a hell of a lot of it. Coming up on KCMO Talk Radio. Well, Ron DeSantis gave a final goodbye. What exactly does that mean for him and his campaign? Plus, something happened here in Johnson County that has been a pet peeve of mine for a long time. We'll get to it all in the 9 o'clock hour. Pete Mundo on KCMO.